every app on your phone that requests those permissions has those permissions from the time that they receive them. And they contain that data from that moment forward. They're receiving, transmitting. What they determine to do with that data, whether they parse it or use it or whatever, is up to them. But TikTok specifically requests more permissions and takes more ownership of your device than practically any other app on the market.
Right out of the gates, I'd like to give a shout out to Rectum for showing his quads and calves. That's what I need. That's what I need.
He showed him. Yeah, he really did. He gave a full frontal selfie, waist down. I saw that.
There's nobody in crypto with that.
Is he the god of the calf?
There's nobody in crypto with
calf
that.
god.
Best legs.
If there was like crypto awards, he'd probably get best legs.
I'm pretty sure about that. There's nobody in crypto like that.
Yeah, for listeners who don't know who we're talking about, Rectum runs the Alfalfa Twitter, which has gotten quite spicy these days, and I like it.
Whoa, don't uncover that secret.
Oh. Is that supposed to be a secret? No, it's not a secret.
It's a secret.
No, it's not a secret. It's a listener-run Twitter account. It's the best innovation in 2022.
Not anymore, Armand.
Steven, it was never a secret.
It was a secret to a lot of people.
Steven, we literally
announced it.
Okay, here's
Santa Claus.
Here's a
welcome to Steven's world right now.
Here's a request to Rectum. What's the upper torso looking like, huh?
Oh,
Capitan?
You want to see a shirt off?
Let's see it, Capitan. What is it?
Albanian chest?
What's
you want
he
to see
got?
some Albanian chest?
Yeah, Albanian asparagus up top? What's he got?
Oh, is that a challenge?
Oh, I just want to know.
I see what you're doing there. I bet you he's a 4-plate repper.
Bench?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 4 plates each side. Just reps.
Jesus.
Just reps. Celsius, rep. Celsius, rep. I just see
Okay,
it.
so let me just talk about this. I had a pre-college goal of being able to rep 2 plates because this is the level at which
it's a good benchmark.
NFL players at the combine. Yeah, the combine rep
like 70 of them.
And like I literally just said, like if I can do more than like this professional athlete, then I'll be fine. And like some of those guys are like fast as fuck, not strong. But if I can like beat one of them, like I'm good. Cool.
I like that. 225.
225.
It's a good amount of weight.
I wish Rectum could do one. I wish he could do one.
Oh, you really are challenging him. Challenge. So yeah, thank you for that, Nick. Because yeah, a lot of people don't know. I guess Steven was one of the people that didn't know that Rectum is running our Twitter. He's doing an amazing job. Thank you, Rectum. What's the other way to say it?
I think it's pronounced Rectum.
There he is.
Yeah.
Rectum.
So we're talking today about Twitter. Excuse me, TikTok.
We're not talking. No, we're not.
We've talked too
500
much.
people just turned off.
We've talked too much about Twitter. We are talking today about TikTok. And there's really 2 facets to this conversation. There's kind of like the American Western view of this in the face of it being a Chinese entity. And then the second component is like, what really is this short form content revolution is where I would like to push the conversation eventually. I hope we get to that because I think it's very important. TikTok to me is like synonymous for reels, for shorts, for Facebook Watch, for all of this like short form content that exists. And I think it's dominating our lives. And like all technologies, there are pros and cons. So let's explore them.
I want to see if we can get to any points.
Toss it over you, Jim.
I'm so glad you caught that. It was subtle, but I wanted you to catch
Wait,
that.
was Nick supposed to open this?
No, it was just this like subtle newscaster moment I was having with Nick.
You're like the color commentator.
Over to you.
Yeah, take it away, Nick.
Okay, I'll try. I wasn't prepared for it, but I will try. The U.S. government announced that TikTok is no longer allowed on government phones.
Banned.
Not allowed on government devices. And that's because TikTok is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and there is an unknown level of osmosis between Chinese companies and the government.
So how far down does that
Great
go?
selection
Like,
of
how
word.
far down does that pervade,
I'll let that slide.
like government employees, right? Like, so if you're a California state employee, you're cool, or
Well,
It's
I think
federal, right?
It's federal, but ahead of this, I think there was like something like 8 or 9 governors that were already doing it on their own for
Let me
their
guess.
own states.
Greg Abbott.
Probably. I don't know the exact, which ones, but yeah, I imagine it was mostly conservative leaning governors that were doing it. But now it's official. If you're a federal employee, you cannot have, and maybe for good reason, right? Obviously, like I think it's been shown or brought to light that ByteDance has accessed U.S. users' IP locations. Like
So Forbes
individual
published a thing 4 days ago.
Okay.
Where it has an expose saying that like ByteDance was tracking the location of journalists, basically.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, this is a standard thing." And then eventually
They
they
were
were like, "Yeah,
tracking, or they were tracking these people specifically.
Individuals.
They
Specific
take
individuals.
the data and parse it.
Yeah, they went into
They
their
did.
individual location data. It was a bit of a hubbub.
I don't think most
not-
people know how much information any individual app collects.
I think
but
Joe Rogan did a really good job of exposing this one time, and it kind of became a viral, little video where he was like, "Do you know like all the things that TikTok has access to?" And he went through it line by line,
Wow.
the terms of service, and it's insane.
They get
Yeah,
your whole
it's
like
terrifying.
browsing history.
can
right?
you give me a rundown? Because I'm not
I sure
aware.
can't. I do not.
I
remember.
have no idea.
I think
It's-
they've
it's
got
everything.
like your camera,
The
roll,
microphone, the
they've got
camera,
your mic,
everything.
they've got your browsing history. Like,
Meaning they
it's-
can control my
Look,
microphone.
they have the data that comes in.
They have access.
Yeah, because
to the
remember
audio
you're using the
input.
video, so they have access to the.
But when I like log into the app and then click it or something.
First of all, once you have an app on your phone, it constantly runs. You don't need to be using the app for it
so
to be
they have
collecting information.
access to all my data from then on.
I mean, they could probably gain access to the mic and the camera.
Okay,
even
so
when you're not using
I
it.
think the idea that like even Facebook is like listening to your mic passively is probably not a real thing.
No, I
Like,
agree. That's not a real
that's
thing.
just it's a thing I think people think happens because it feels like it happens because you talk about dog food, then suddenly you get a dog food ad, but in reality you talked about it because you went to this website.
But it is weird how that shit works out.
It is weird, but I think in reality we like the browsing history is like low data, low effort. Like you got cookies, you can see that stuff. You can transmit that really easily, and then they take that. Not that that's any better, right? Like
Right.
I would be curious if we have any disagreement on this at all.
I don't want
what
to
do we
quite move
disagreeing?
on from that because I have seen YouTube channels like literally prove subjectively.
Okay, I don't
anecdotally.
think the mic thing is a real thing. Like, I think the idea that like these companies are streaming audio data in real time and parsing it, that doesn't.
I don't know,
Past
but I
the-
think it's the important thing to acknowledge is that every app on your phone that requests those permissions has those permissions from the time that they receive them. And they contain that data from that moment forward. They're receiving, transmitting. What they determine to do with that data, whether they parse it or use it or whatever, is up to them. But
I don't think they're getting data, though.
TikTok specifically requests more permissions and takes more ownership of your device than practically any other app on the market. That's the
question.
the
Like,
sort of
what extra are they asking for? Like, and if you don't know, that's fine.
yeah. It's like location. It's the ability. It's not just the ability to like take that sort of like microphone data and do something with it. It's like how they use it as well.
Right,
They request rights to how they're able to use it.
As an example, what they were using it for in the case that we just mentioned, the Forbes article, was that they were trying to figure out who was leaking information about the company to journalists. So they were doing a match on IP address location with journalists and their internal employees to see, did anyone essentially meet up with the journalists over a certain time
You
period.
saw that. I love that you saw this and you went like even deeper.
To
I
try
saw
to-
like one bullet point and was like, I'm going to talk about this bullet point. And you're
well,
like,
how they
no,
use
actually,
this,
I've
yeah.
read.
And that's like one, I wouldn't even call that like a malignant use case that it could be used for. That
Right.
was like a possibly a business use case. You
sort
could
of
say.
like predefined.
Yeah, it's predefined, but like there's all kinds of stuff that you can.
Yeah, if
you
that's
could
the
use it
thing,
for.
they're like, yeah, we did that. Sorry. It's like, what else? What else are you doing?
So there's like the explicit things that people are worried about, which is like the explicit data that you're sending to this company that is based in China and I don't know if there's necessarily a firewall between the government and Chinese companies. I'm pretty sure there's not. And they could say, hey, we want this data, and they provide it, and that's kind of how things go. I mean, we haven't seen Jack Ma in quite a bit, so I think
where he
what
at?
happened to him?
Oh, he's gone. No, he's probably I don't know. He's probably-
Re-education camp.
Yeah, re-education
Poor guy.
camp.
Long time no see.
He's probably I don't know. He's probably in Japan or Hong Kong somewhere, just keeping quiet.
Fuck, I hope so.
Yeah, hope he's
Jeez.
alive.
Yeah, seriously.
So there's the explicit one where you're sending data, but the other misuse that people say they could be used for is like they could kind of like alter the narrative for a particular group of people, right? So they may know like a certain generation, maybe like a heavy voting cohort in the U.S. for a midterm election. They could kind of use the algorithm to sway the conversation, kind of the groupthink, left or right, up or down, however they see fit, with that kind of like heavy usage. So
Got it.
those are the kind of the
Got it.
the two ways that people are afraid. And
What are you most concerned about in general? Like, just to zoom out, like, here's the permissions we're giving up. Here's what's going on. Here's how the U.S. is responding. Federal government saying, like, employees, please, you're banned from putting this on your phone. Do you think that was a good response? And then for the everyday citizens, do you think that we should be responding differently at all to this if the federal government?
I mean, they're collecting like facial recognition data on TikTok, right? Like anytime you selfie, they're collecting that information.
Yeah,
and-
so
and
this is
saying-
one of those things, Eric.
And saying like,
the facial
okay,
recognition.
your name is Eric Johansson. You put it into our app. This is your face. Now we got it locked in.
And this is like unbeknownst to the user.
Nobody reads the terms and
It's
conditions.
unbeknownst if you read
it is
the
unbeknownst.
9,000 page T&C.
But I just mean if you're holding your phone up as you use the app, like just like hypothetically speaking, like you're just
There are things that the app actively is transmitting while you're using the app, and then there are things that the app has access to in the background. One of the reasons Apple in general is starting to get pretty good and favorable toward the user about like certain privacy issues is for those reasons, for these apps that are extracting more than necessary. So if you notice when you're using your phone, sometimes it says, hey, your Aura Ring is still tracking your location. Are you sure you want it set to always, or do you want it set to only while you're using your app?
Well, this is really
and that's
important.
where this stuff comes from.
It's really important.
And thank you, Apple, for that, by the way, because it's like,
Absolutely.
again, I don't know where their allegiance lies in all of these
Well,
things. It's
they-
all just a
they
fucking...
take a nice 30%.
Yeah, it's all
Okay,
just,
yeah.
yeah, there you
Gee,
go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think they're out for? Like,
I mean,
their own
the,
good?
the thing I worry about most is that not the things that are actively using it in real time when they're getting the data. It's for when they need to use
background.
it. So,
Yeah.
I can go a little tinfoil here, but like, let's say,
Tinfoil Nick's my favorite now.
okay, so let's say the
Tinfoil Nick a thing?
Well, we're about to find out.
I mean, I think it's
Better go hard, brother.
Yeah, I think it's particularly useful if you're a
high
government
bar.
and you want to change something on like a local, regional, or even like federal level. So it could be like a permitting person in the city of San Francisco. It could be a mid-level executive at like a voting machine company. It could be any type of person who they need to like turn or persuade or influence, whether using leverage or not using leverage. And they literally have this database of all the things they could literally twist and turn on this person to move the way they want. They have all their contacts, they have everywhere they've been, they have their likes and interests. And if you want to influence that person, you could, use many different ways to kind of, whether it's someone in person, like interacting with them, or they're using the app or whatever it is to kind of persuade them in a way
So it's
you
like
want.
the second order effects. Like, I mean,
It's a
obviously.
huge database of like essentially a U.S. population that you're like, well, we need to influence this like lower level congressman. Let's go look at his daughter's like basically database of likes and interests and where she goes and what she does. And let's look at his entire family. Let's look at his close contacts. Where does he travel? Oh, it's interesting. He travels at this other house pretty often. It's like, oh wow, he's cheating on his wife. Great, let's
So
use that.
I hate to say this, but like, everything is becoming less tinfoily. Like, is this really that tinfoily of a thing? To
No,
think that
I don't
the
think
data
so.
would be used to revert this back to you. Like, essentially what you're saying is like, these apps like TikTok are capturing so much data from not just important people, but from those people that are related to them in any shape or form, like auxiliary people, that anyone of influence or who needs to accomplish anything could somehow extract that data and blackmail a
Totally.
person at any time for any reason because we're accumulating and extracting so much data at all times.
Yeah. And it could be not the high level people you know about. It could be like the night manager at Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You think that's what it
like
could
energy
evolve
plant,
to.
you know, like it could be really obscure. But yeah, I mean, it's just this data trove of information that like they could obviously leverage.
So then if that's true, do you think we'll get to a point where the data becomes irrelevant? Like that there's just so much and it's so ubiquitous and it's so accessible that everyone at any time could be so easily blackmailed that it just becomes like a, well, you're doing that thing to me that you do. You're trying to cancel me.
The one thing
of course you're trying to cancel me, you know?
I don't know. I think, well, you might even know that it's happening to you. You might even know that someone is
I think
actually
it's
trying
like
to.
more akin to phishing. It's like where
Yeah.
you think like, oh, well, this looks normal, and then you just
If it's actually
That's
important
actually a
and
great
egregious.
point. Like one of the easiest ways to go about it was some kind of social engineering thing. Is like, well, what would this person click on based upon everything we know about
Okay,
it?
here's a good example, and it's Twitter and TikTok. And Twitter is really notorious for being this like company with so much potential that's just completely incompetent and apparently can't do anything. And then TikTok, where like this is this Chinese run like super spyware company that's doing all this nefarious stuff in its program.
Meanwhile,
You know, like Twitter likes, you know how you like a tweet? You're aware that it's public, right?
right?
So a lot of people aren't aware that it's public. There was a funny thing last year where do you know Doc Rivers?
the
Yes.
NBA coach.
the coach of the Clippers.
Yeah, so Doc was on Twitter last year. He was liking some pornographic tweets, and it inspired like a whole bunch of memes. Like I don't know if you guys saw Breaking Bad, where like Walter's in the car and he's like screaming out the window, and people are like, "Doc, your likes are public. Your likes are public." And they're like, because like his whole Twitter feed was like him liking like literal porn on his Twitter feed.
Like Asian-
and then people were
Asian
like,
rapes.
oh my God. And they were like, kind of like, but because it was so public, it was like laughed off and easily diffused and it was gone. TikTok is like all the stuff Doc is doing is like private. And this one company has all that data and nobody else has it. And they do. So because of that, they have like this leverage, right? So they're gathering this like really critical info that other people don't have that they do. Yeah. There's this powerful asymmetry, and then they can do nasty things.
And you got to keep in mind that like if you're in South America or in Europe, you kind of face this with U.S. companies. I mean, Facebook, Amazon, Google, like other foreign governments have had access to your information, but there is more of a whether it's feigned or not, there is a wall between the government and these companies, right? You're supposed to request that information through a legal process. I think we found out through Edward Snowden that our government necessarily wasn't. But in any case, like this has happened before. You know, if you're a European or South American person, you're kind of used to this. But for you, we're not used to this. Where a company is like a social media app has gone viral like this and has hundreds of millions of monthly active users. And like you said, they're holding this information. We're giving it quite a bit of real-time information. So obviously the U.S. government knows this, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a few different options they can go. They can force ByteDance to sell off TikTok to a U.S.-based company. They can do a few other things. And there's currently a negotiation between ByteDance and the U.S. government.
I'm sorry, they can force that?
No, well, like say we're going to ban you.
Okay.
We're going to like decree that it's no longer available in the US.
Okay.
Or you can just sell off this business unit.
Oh, cool.
But here are the three things that are currently up for negotiation between the US government and ByteDance. So first is preventing China-based employees from accessing American data by storing all of TikTok data solely on US servers. That's one. Second, block Chinese propaganda and disinformation campaigns by granting Oracle a contract to monitor what's being recommended by the algorithms. So that's second. Third is some kind of oversight by providing a TikTok board of security experts that reports directly to the U.S. government.
Wow.
So these are pretty like hardcore clamps that they're trying to put on the
Wait,
government.
but before we go this deep, like can we just like establish some point like where maybe we don't agree? Like, do we all agree that TikTok shouldn't be on government officials' phones?
I think that's pretty easy. To
That
agree
seems
with.
obvious. To
I didn't
me,
know like
but is
any
that
social
obvious
media
to,
was allowed
is that
on
obvious
government.
to you?
To be fair, like I would not think that, but I would find that to be palatable.
Yeah, you hear that and you're like, oh, that's fine. We shouldn't do that.
I think my take on that is pretty simple. If I work for the government gets to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is a reasonable
I don't have a
constraint.
Especially have security
right?
clearance. Like you
I
definitely
just
shouldn't
don't
have
have a
this shit.
say in that. If
Like
I
you
work
shouldn't
for
have
the
like weird apps
But like
installed on
to
your
take it one step
phone.
further,
Yeah.
like if this is like a security problem, then like let's consider taking off not only our phones, like politicians' phones, but like
Right. That's the
More-
next. That's the
more-
next step. Like
more
if
people.
it's so obvious this shouldn't be on a congressman's phone. Well, at what point is it so obvious that it shouldn't
And
be on like?
that's what I was alluding
your-
to.
your
Also
future
with you. I'm
daughter's
like,
phone or
do you
something.
start to think like, hey, I shouldn't
Well,
have this?
here's
or
an argument
people I
ag-
care about should not have this.
Right, here's an argument against it, right? So like we're talking about banning this thing for national security reasons, but the reason we have national security is to protect individual liberties, obviously physical safety, but like our citizens' individual liberties and freedoms. But if by doing that
a
we're
generous interpretation, but
sure,
I'll allow it.
but like let's say we're taking away some of those freedoms in the name of national security. So is it kind of like, are we going against the point of the whole thing by not allowing people who want to use this app? I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying this is the best counter argument I could find is like, if people want to use this app, let them use it and take care of the security concerns without inhibiting their freedoms and liberties to use it.
I would like it. I would like the answer to be, oh, there's a easy alternative that we can use that's like American run. But that's not the case. So like, I want to come with like a alternate perspective where it's like I'm about to go on a 12-day goddamn dopamine detox with you guys.
You're so upset about this.
Yeah, and like I'm going steps further where
Can't
it's like
TikTok anymore.
where it's like I want to go with like
Are you gonna let your wife? Is she gonna be dopamining next to you while you?
yeah.
So you're
that's
not.
that's a fact.
Not forcing.
Grumpy household.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
It's gonna be
So like
tough.
like I'm also adding on layers of like calorie restriction and sort of like exercise needs. Okay, so like
You're going dopamine fast plus endorphins.
it's gonna be a like a physical, mental, emotional, all encompassing health sort of 12 days.
Good
So
man.
for me, like I was looking at options for like high protein, low calorie recipes, and like
On TikTok?
Why? I
So-
know.
Okay, no, I was waiting for
He's-
the tie-in.
he's
but
bringing
he's
it back.
tying it in.
He's bringing it
it
back.
back. I want to hear it.
Yeah. So like on the platforms that I use, Instagram, for instance, like the
You can't really do that.
the options aren't necessarily there.
No,
but
the
like
Instagram search is broken. But you went to TikTok and did the. Can you explain that? How
so
it
like
works on TikTok?
like on TikTok, like exactly what I'm looking for is
Yeah.
there, and it's like
no,
it's
but
not
how did you get to it? I'm genuinely curious, like how it works.
okay. So let me just like explain my process. Like I went to Instagram first because it's all I have. Like I don't use TikTok. So like I went to Instagram first, and I
thought
go,
you have a TikTok.
no, I don't give a shit about TikTok. But I went to Instagram and I was like, please give me what I seek, and it did not meet.
But
that
you searched it on TikTok
requirement.
and it showed up.
And then I go to TikTok. It's like, let me give you like all of these, like let me give you like more than you could ever imagine, like requirement.
So sorry, just nerd moment. Like you went to the search bar and typed this,
Yes,
and it
High
that's what
pro-
came up.
high protein, low calorie recipes on Instagram search, and there was like
No, that would equal nothing on Instagram.
was like-
Instagram search is the
it was
worst
like
product
four-
Yeah, there
it
is
was-
no
in
search.
history.
There is no
It's-
search.
There
it's
were like-
It's
egregiously
like
terrible.
tags,
Yeah.
people.
there were two
nothing else.
creators on Instagram that had like 4 pieces of content.
Okay, got it.
And like their content was fine. It was like it's what I was looking for, but it was like not
So
extensive.
why'd you go to TikTok? Did you try going to YouTube?
Of course.
And how is your experience on YouTube versus TikTok?
Well, I think what you're asking is
Well,
how
we're on the TikTok episode mostly.
Wait.
But there is YouTube Shorts now.
This is a good convo. I want to have this convo. I feel like we're just starting to get into like Nick's like, hello, like what the fuck is going on here convo, and then we're going into like the product convo.
But he is illustrating a point that like it is valuable. So should we deny
no.
his like,
I
use?
agree that
Okay.
it is valuable.
like I'm a user
in a way.
Like I'm a user. I'm trying. Like all I want is content. Like all I want is like original content that tells me how to get a recipe.
Yeah, we're not
X,
letting
Y,
you
Z.
get to your point. Like you had a good experience, would you say?
TikTok dominates the competition when it comes to like, here's what I'm looking for. Like I want high protein, low calorie recipes. And TikTok is like, here's like 1,000 creators with 1,000 different recipes. Instagram had like 2 creators with like 2 different recipes. And I was like, by the time I was done with that, I'm like, I literally have to download TikTok to get what I'm searching for.
So would you be willing to risk the use of an app if we said the ultimatum is the data has to be on U.S. servers and no
Like,
Chinese
I
citizen
was-
can
I was-
access that information?
I was tested in like an absolute sense because I literally did it.
Right. Yeah. And the reason I ask about YouTube is because all these platforms are copy pasting each other, right? So like we as podcasters now are privy to this. Like we're like, all right, we put our videos on, YouTube Shorts, and we put our videos on TikTok, and now Facebook has a thing. Like, did you find something similar on YouTube? Did you try? Do you think that you could get the same result on YouTube, or do you think that there's something about the type of, I'm sure this is a component of it, the type of creator and the plethora of creators that are on TikTok creating this type of content? They're not on YouTube Shorts doing this for the most part, right?
To be honest, like I think of this exact type of content as like TikTok content. Like
You think of it that way.
I perceive it this
You
way.
know what's wild to me? If you think that, a 22-year-old must be like purely like that's their Google. So for us, we grew up, we're the Google generation, right? Like that's what we all are. We're all basically the same age within a few years of each other. We're all the Google generation. But the TikTok generation is different from the Instagram generation. I remember when Nick first told me, he was like, I forget who you said, but you're like, might have been your girlfriend. You were like, she went to Instagram to search for that. Rather, it was like a place or a restaurant. She went to the Instagram to search for that rather than Google. And you were like, that tripped me out. Oh my God, they go to Instagram. Eric is displaying this entire group of people that goes to TikTok to search to learn something.
And it wasn't my first choice. It's like the content isn't there on other platforms. What I was searching for was literally like TikTok served it to me perfectly.
I agree with you. TikTok is a really good product.
I've never used it.
I want to and I don't want to get get
go
derailed
ahead.
in that discussion because like I think
We've had
TikTok is
enough.
obviously
Go
a
ahead.
good product. That's why people use it. What I want to have is the discussion that like assuming TikTok is an incredible product, it's 100 times better than Instagram. Should we have it? Like should it even exist? Like
we?
assuming it's a good product.
Who's we and what do
Are we
you
talking
mean?
about? Sorry, are we talking about the national security thing, or are we just talking about?
Do we all agree that like government officials shouldn't have TikTok
Yeah,
on their phone?
we agree.
That's fine. Like we all agree with that.
Yeah.
Blah.
I said
Let's-
top down if they feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go farther than that. Like, should like U.S. citizens be allowed to have TikTok on that? Like, should we ban TikTok from like 14-year-old girls? Is like where I'm interested in going because I think that is the more interesting
To
conversation.
me, that's the equivalent of like Iran banning WhatsApp. What's the difference?
Oh, I have a very good difference. The difference is that like with TikTok, you have a algorithm that is feeding information to people at a rapid pace and curating what they see, and thus like filtering their perception of the world.
Whatever.
Whereas WhatsApp,
It's just a form of control. If they want to control, they control. It's control.
is there an
Yes,
algorithm
there's-
on WhatsApp?
No, but
that-
like if I don't want to control, yeah, there is the algorithm of people communicating with
is
one
there a
another.
feed on WhatsApp where you just are fed stuff randomly?
No, it's not about
No,
randomly. It's about the
exactly.
ability to shape the narrative. I think that's where there is a critical juncture. If you want to ban certain apps, you are pushing a certain level of authoritarianism, and that's.
Yeah, and I think that's the
I
important
tough.
point of this conversation.
I
is like,
see where you're coming from.
Let's go
but
into it. Let's go.
Well, let's
I don't
dive
know.
into it.
Let's go. Like I don't know.
A 14-year-old girl using TikTok versus a 14-year-old girl on WhatsApp. What is the quantity? Let's define like content that they see, right? Because if they're watching like a 30-second video at 1.5x speed that's edited, snap, 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 they might be consuming like 15 minutes of like video content in the span of like 20 seconds because people are getting really good at chopping that shit down.
Yeah.
What are you consuming on WhatsApp? You're texting someone, you're sending them like
WhatsApp's a bad. They also ban all the other ones.
But my point is that what is critical here isn't the form of communication. It is the algorithm that filters what you see. Because the essence of TikTok is that there is a central fire hose of stuff that you're tapped into, and you are fed like a fire hose of information that is shaped to who you are.
So in other words, you have a centralized entity or group of people shaping a narrative that perpetuates an entire society. And the question is, should that society have the rights to access that? And the question of who can access that is dependent upon the government that rules those people. So we're asking, should the people that sit underneath a government have access to certain information that is shaped by other governments?
yeah. And I mean, I think there was a viral video that went around where someone was like, look at the information that your kids are getting fed by TikTok's algorithm. Like, it is literally showing them stuff to make, his point was it's feeding them stuff to make them dumber.
I mean, you've seen the Chinese TikTok versus the US
It is
TikTok,
drastically
right?
different. It's
Hold
like
on.
It's
like
hilarious.
positive
I
affirmations.
need to see this.
Have you seen
it
Chinese
real?
TikTok versus US TikTok?
Is it a real
Chinese
thing?
TikTok feeds kids like math problems and
Is this-
science.
Yeah,
or,
but, like,
and-
or
the
stories of
algorithm's so-
kids accomplishing things.
No, but the
stories of
algorithm's so different from kid to kid. Is this really a real thing?
yes,
Like-
in Chinese TikTok, like there's
objectively
an iron
across the country.
Oh, it
It's
is
like this.
night. There are no blue-haired persons
No,
on
that I
Chinese
know because
TikTok.
that's just
Chinese
that's
TikTok
a
is
sociological issue. Like that's
no, but
different.
that's an algorithm
That's different.
issue. That's an algorithm issue.
No, that's
Wait, what's-
that's
No.
That's like asking chicken or
Armand,
egg.
you are literally
That's
wrong.
chicken or
The
egg.
Chinese
That's chicken or
government
egg.
I agree.
literally
That's chicken or egg.
prohibits that
Yeah.
content.
No. Hold on. Wait a second. Let's go into this.
It's not chicken or egg.
No. The blue hair was there. Like
The blue hair
was
doesn't
there.
exist on Chinese TikTok.
I got that, but the blue hair was there in American society anyway.
Well, so what? Why couldn't you show that to someone in China?
You sure can.
no, you
why-
can't.
But they don't.
Well,
you can't.
because it's not popular. There's an algorithm.
No, because the algorithm doesn't let you.
But why would let's just like bring it home, like to local, like to me. Like, why do I give a fuck about word problems, math problems? Like, I'm looking for high protein, low calorie recipes, right?
Okay.
Like,
There's a difference between the algo that you actively search for and what it gives you to versus the passive fire hose of human not like if you think about it like
okay,
as-
You see,
good point.
Your
good
use
point.
case is different. You went to search for something specific.
Good point, but I didn't like scroll, and it was like
Yes.
love China. Like,
No, it wouldn't be
love
that. It would be
China.
like, I don't know, more tits and ass.
No, it was literally fucking recipes, dude. Like,
But the passive search thing doesn't feed you that, right? The problem with these algos is like imagine all of the content of humanity. Everything from physics to math to what the Kardashians did yesterday to everything in
Would
between.
love to know.
It's condensed into this one little fire hose of info.
yes. Okay.
Whoever controls what you see controls what your vision of the world is, like the entirety of the world. That is a very powerful lever.
That resonated with me, and I finally get it, and I think it's like brilliantly stated.
It
Like
could
that,
make
I get
one
that.
individual feel like a certain perspective is a monolith. It is literally what life is about. It is what everyone else thinks, talks about, says, and does. It can make one person feel like that when in reality,
Yeah.
it's not.
Sorry,
it-
guys, but you're assuming like that there's some sort of like And I'm not saying I don't think there is, but you're assuming that there's a centralized algorithm that is more powerful than the individual's algorithm. Like
it is more powerful than the individual algorithm.
Maybe.
It's undeniably more.
No, maybe. But
no, definitely.
I, as a user, am shaping my experience. Everybody knows that. Everyone can. And you can on TikTok as well. You can say, I don't want that ad. I don't want that suggested post. I don't want that.
Okay.
And you can do that over and over again until you get what you want. Do I agree that like China or this and by the way, like it is a lot to say that like China is behind this because it is an individual entity. It is a company in China. Do they have some like fucking back door between?
It's not even a back door, it's a front door.
It's a front door. Fine. Do they have a front door? Absolutely.
Yes.
Does it shape the decisions that this company makes?
Yes.
Absolutely. But like, dude, people are still shaping their experiences in America. And like the blue hair exists. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I know people that are on TikTok that only see what they want to see. So how do you address that? How do you address the people that are only watching fucking
Recipes.
twerking videos or recipe videos? Like how are they privy to Chinese propaganda?
Can I give you an example that'll probably hit more home directly to you?
Sure.
Let's imagine two people in your lives. I hand them a phone and it has the Chinese curated TikTok algorithm on it. One of them is...
What does that mean? It's a person who lives in China?
No. I mean, it's a person in the U.S. who has TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese curated algorithm. It's owned by ByteDance. ByteDance, can we establish that any company that is a Chinese company is basically the CCP? Because we have to establish that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I would argue that
is fair. It's a front door.
I would argue that is the case, right? So if you don't agree with that, you don't agree with what I'm saying. But if we establish that that's true... If I were to have like my mother who's like 75 and I had a newly born daughter who's like not newly born, actually, she's 5 years old. If I give my mom TikTok and I tell her to run wild, I don't care that much. Like her view of the world is largely shaped. Maybe she's gonna go down like QAnon, but she was already like really like right wing to begin with, right? If I give like a 5-year-old girl TikTok and I give them just scroll in the feed, and this feed is just curated, and it's just programmed to respond to what they already do, and then to send them down a very direct sort of path, which tells them how to view all sorts of things in the world: politics, sexuality, geopolitics, the nature, like everything has like sides, right? And this algo is choosing it for them. I am okay with like my 75-year-old mother doing that. My 5-year-old daughter, like I don't want to give them that. That seems to me like a very powerful black box. Like I'm not going to just hand that to them.
You're outsourcing a lot of.
Yeah, you were just being like, here you go, have fun with the algo. What the fuck is the algo? Who programmed the algo? What are the inputs? That's going to shape like the formative years of my daughter's life.
I don't know what a solution is. Like
the solution is literally just to emulate like what we're doing. Like we should do short form content that supersedes TikTok content. Like everyone should just like create recipes on Instagram that like beat the TikTok ones, because like I looked there first. Like I tried to go to Instagram first to be like, give me the fucking recipes, and then I had to go to TikTok.
Instagram's the worst product. That's why people don't use it.
But that is the point. Like if TikTok wasn't better, then I wouldn't have to use it.
Right, but that's a problem. Like the fact that Hitler designed a really good app and everybody uses it isn't a good reason to let everybody use Hitler's app. Like if you think
we
Hitler's
have just reached
bad,
the Hitler level of
I know
we
just did Godwin's law.
We have approached full.
Fuck! I always tell myself not to do Godwin's law, but I just
full
did
Hitler
it.
now.
I did it. I went with the Hitler.
That means we've succeeded.
No, but I think it establishes a point.
There's a point that like if you know something to be bad, like you don't want the free market to quote unquote solve it. Like you're like, this is a bad thing. We need to. It's the whole reason government exists in the first place. Is we decided to live in a society where we put guardrails up. We like block certain things off. We don't let things run unchecked. Like to me, like information is like one of those things. Like this is crazy shit. Like we can't let this run wild. We have to check this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on. I get wary about, say, the government saying, okay, we know this is a problem. We know why it's a problem. So we're going to play hardball. There's obviously leverage. They're making a lot of money from this. This is a huge app that can grow. We're going to require it to run on US servers, or maybe we're going to require them to sell the business unit, whatever it may be. I do get a little wary about kind of letting the government decide, because this one to me seems pretty obvious that like there's some, terrible use cases that the CCP could use it for. And even just, kind of outsourcing children's, growth, via the algorithm. But what happens there's one that's a little less obvious, or even a lot less obvious? Like, do we really let the government decide that, an app that we really like, that maybe it's based in Germany and not China? Do we let them decide that?
Okay, great point, because the answer to that is also no.
Okay.
Because did you see the piece Glenn Greenwald put out today? Actually, it was very timely. He like released it today, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I was
consume so much content.
because I have a problem.
I got an opposite take from this.
Oh my God.
All right, tell me.
So I'm glad you went there, because what our government wants us to say is like, hey, the Chinese are bad. Don't give them TikTok. Give it to us, or put it in an American company. And like Glenn put out this piece, and he was basically like, the sort of security arm of the U.S. government, they're trying to control they want to control big tech, not because like they're trying to protect us, because like there's this thing is like, we don't want you to consume this Chinese propaganda because it's bad for you. And it's like, no, we don't want you to consume this Chinese propaganda because we want to feed you our own propaganda.
Yes.
Right? So Glenn put out this very tangible example, right? Where like, and he talked about what you talked about, where there's this push where, and this is the kind of tinfoil hat thing that the US lawmakers are saying, we're going to ban TikTok, but it's actually a strong arm tactic to get them to store all the data under Oracle and to create this new government arm that is a quote unquote content moderation arm of TikTok. And the goal isn't to like move TikTok to Facebook. It's to strong arm them into like letting the quote unquote content moderation live under this government control entity. And then like Glenn put out this like piece where he was criticizing Zelensky, right? And he was simply putting out a piece where he was like, hey, here's how the media used to cover Vladimir Zelensky, Ukraine, right? Before the Russian invasion. And they had all these articles and like videos about, do you remember the Panama Papers? And yeah. People have forgotten this, but there was a thing in the Pandora Papers like connecting Zelensky, he's allegedly like an anti-oligarch person. When those papers were released, it showed that like he had received like 40 million in payments from like some Russian oligarchs and had like these weird ownerships and he was clearly getting funneled money from Russian oligarchs. But as soon as the Russian war started, that was gone. And Greenwald put out a video saying like, hey, here's how you used to cover Zelensky. Here's how you do now. That video stayed up on Facebook. It stayed up on Instagram. It stayed up on Twitter. It was banned on TikTok. And his account was threatened to be taken down for misinformation. And like his thesis is basically like, they're trying to like push the Chinese out, not to protect you, but because they want to take control of the information. And this is ironic in a way, because they sort of told us that the Russians are trying to like formulate our view of the world, but in reality, they're just trying to push the Russians out so that they can control all of the big tech and shape the narrative. So I would throw that out to you. And
so we call it the culture wars, but really it's the information wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, well, while Stephen was mentioning that, I copy pasted the article into ChatGPT and
what you got?
asked to give me 5 or 6 bullet points on it.
Did he say like I can't summarize that?
No, it
Ukraine's
did.
great. Okay,
yeah,
good.
It did.
Because I would.
Yeah. Anyway, continue. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Please give us
let's hear the summary.
I need some summarization.
Well, I don't know if reading on a podcast is that interesting, but it does summarize.
Do you have something?
I'll summarize.
Do you have a few points?
Yeah, the last two are pretty interesting.
Okay.
The U.S. government's actions towards TikTok mirror those of countries like China, Iran, and Russia.
Yes.
Who require U.S. internet companies to comply with censorship in order to remain active in their countries. These actions raise questions about the extent to which governments should be able to regulate content in social media platforms. So those last two are kind of the point that you're kind of leaning into, which is, well, are we essentially giving up one bad hand for another bad hand? And so if you're not going to rely on China to change their ways, if you're not going to rely on the government to take action to prevent this, then do you just let the market do it? Because the market is saying, we like the recipes. We like the recipes, so give me more of it. And maybe it's instead of the U.S. government going in heavy-handed with raw laws and regulations, they should make the case to the American public.
I mean, the market might respond very quickly too. You know, like Instagram might give me the fucking high protein recipes that I desire very quickly.
Right. Maybe. I mean, they're obviously trying to make their products better already, and it's not necessarily working, right? The usage on these apps is way better. So I don't think that's going to do it, but like, yeah, I don't know.
But what you just pointed out that Chat GPT summarized is like exactly accurate. Like that's what Iran does. Like when Google wants to come into Iran, they're like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Armand, but they're like, sure, you can come in, but you have to filter all your stuff through our crap. And like, you can't use your algo. We have to, same thing with China. Like when Google went into China, they couldn't use their open algorithm for sorting the information of the world. They had to do what the CCP did. And what the government in the US is doing with TikTok now is sort of the same thing. They're like, yeah, you can have TikTok in the US. If you don't agree to this, we'll ban you and we'll give Facebook the market share. But if you want to be here, just store your data with Oracle and then filter all your content moderation through this agency we set up. And then they tell us it's because they're protecting us from the evil CCP, but actually it's because they just want to control the fucking propaganda.
That's the fucking kind of take that most people would never take right there. Like that's some real shit. And it's important to talk about. Like it really is, because I mean it is so unpopular to say what you just said.
But it drives you so fucking crazy because you want to like you want to throw your hat in some fucking corner, but then it's just like everybody is just trying to control you for
and you can't rely on the market because like, you know, my benefit of getting better recipes, it's hard for me to internalize like the greater problem this presents. Like I can't take on the problem of the U.S. government in my own personal actions. I'm not going to, right? Like when I weigh the pros and cons, I'm like, these recipes are better.
They're legit, use this. But that's what it's so sinister that they're arbitraging your fucking time and desire to like work to do this for like your freedom in a particular way. You're like, I could get this recipe on Instagram, but it would take me like 37 seconds longer. So I need to go to TikTok. And because everybody does that, TikTok gets all this market share and then they want to fucking control TikTok. But at the root of it, it's because you just really didn't want to, it was just too inconvenient for you to spend 37 extra seconds.
Is there like a middle ground here where there are regulations and laws that could be in place that don't necessarily hand over the censorship in the hands of, you know?
I feel like we've talked about this before, and I feel like there are no middle grounds. I feel like we go to full authoritarian state-controlled social, or we go like totally decentralized.
Because I think it's important sometimes.
What's that?
Just any take that we've ever had, you know? Like, how would you describe that?
Well, like here's what happens, right? You get into this nether region where you're like, oh, okay, this is how it should be, but we need to put in place these rules, otherwise it's bad. And there's so much power. Like, imagine how much power is at the root of Twitter or TikTok in controlling that algorithm. It's like an immense amount of power.
Yeah.
So either you're like, okay, well, we just need to put some rules around that power, but eventually the people who create the rules that govern the power have the power themselves because they govern that. And then that becomes this, and then that ends in a dictatorship, basically, right? Because that person just controls everything. Or you completely let go and you go like, there is no power. You release all of the power. You make it entirely decentralized. You make all of social media a protocol, and maybe you stack some sorting algorithms on top of it, and you can use a skin. You can use this skin, you can use this skin, and then the government only exists to enforce the free marketplace of skins, right? The government doesn't make the skin, they don't make the protocol. They just make it so that you can't stop everybody else from putting like a skin on top of like the decentralized social media. But if you do that, then everybody can have access.
I'd give credit to Zuck, because Zuck was saying it's like the more regulations you put on our industry, like the more that we win, you know, like, like the incumbent is just so
Screwed.
No, the incumbent has so many advantages.
Yeah, they have the
that
advantages.
The
Like, if
incumbent,
you
Oh,
wanna
sorry,
challenge
the
it, yeah.
incumbent, them.
yes, the incumbent has so many
yeah.
advantages. It's like the more regulation you put on it, it's like
Yeah.
the more that we dominate. And it's like I think Zuck was trying to be like,
Yeah, that was one of my favorite quotes of his of all time. I liked that.
Zuck
sure.
is like weirdly based at sometimes, and then also like a complete fucking.
You're such a
bot.
zoomer.
Like it's like
You're such a zoomer.
It's
I'd like to pivot the conversation and close out with this just question of like, I really want you guys' take on like TikTok media as a whole. So TikTok revolutionized this whole idea of short form content, right? And it has become the way that like not just most humans these days learn and consume knowledge and information, but children and infants. Like you have little kids that grab iPhones and iPads and they're more adept at using this technology than we are. And they know exactly what to do and how to do it, and they can learn faster than we ever could because the sort of separation of like video to brain and bandwidth speed is like more heightened than it's ever been. It's just remarkable to watch. It's really, really fascinating. Do you guys think that we're fucked, or do you think that this is a good thing? Short form content as a whole. Please help me.
I mean, I think this is just a bunch of old guys, the older generation,
Hey.
looking at the
Hey.
new generations,
Hey.
Boomer
new
Steve.
technology,
Hey.
and being like,
Boomer Steve.
it's gonna ruin their brains, gonna ruin their lives. Like just like maybe
Do you really think this is how
our
it
grandparents
is? It's
laughed
just
at
like
us
everything
using
else?
phones and computers and Facebook. They're like, look,
You
at
don't
them.
see it as
They're just
any
stuck to their
different
phones.
than everything else that we've ever had.
It is different, but I'm saying
Different in the sense of like this might actually be detrimental.
No, because I think it's equivalent to what it felt like for our grandparents to look at what we used as, people in our teens and 20s. It's the same thing as how we look at, teenagers now and what they're using. I don't think that's necessarily detrimental.
I think we're talking about difference between breadth versus depth. Like obviously, like I'm not gonna learn the depth of options market volatility through some random on TikTok. I'm going to learn through Jam, I bottom line.
I'm going to learn through Eric Johansson.
Okay. In the future, you will learn it. You'll learn it through the fucking gem of TikTok. Like
No.
that. Yes, you will, because I think the short form stuff is attractive and people like it because it is at its root useful, right? And I experienced this myself when I try to get information from YouTube. All right, I found a video. I was like, this is the thing I want. And I open it. And then the first thing I do is I fast forward through the first 40 seconds because the guy's like, hi, welcome to my channel. Subscribe. I got this. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm just like, tell me the thing. So I fast forward. And I think that's what like TikTok does. And that's why people like it. It forces people to condense what they're saying into the most digestible alpha. And and I think in that it's good. And it allows people to learn more stuff in a shorter period of time.
I take it back. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, there's a woman named Kat Norton. She was like a Microsoft Excel
Kathy
influencer on TikTok. So she was basically teaching people how to use Excel
I
formulas.
bet you
Yeah.
followed her.
Yeah, I did. I was like, this is phenomenal. And
Excel
to
influencer?
Steven's point, she just gave me the meat. Every TikTok was like, this is how you do this in Excel. This is how you do this in Excel. Anyway, she makes millions of dollars a month.
The
off her
problem
course,
with
but-
TikTok right now is that somebody like Chem is like when he had to learn all the fucking shit he knows, TikTok didn't exist. And like, he's a useful person who has immense knowledge. If you talk to him, he talks to you, I guess, kind of an emoji sort of, but still in like a longer form way, right? So it's unrealistic to expect some like 19-year-old Zoomers are going to come on TikTok and like give you option alpha, right? But 10 years from now, maybe that fucking kid does do that. He goes through the ropes and he learns that. And then he does say that. But then he's sitting here in his podcast, like being like, these fucking kids and their 1 second podcast. Like they're just like can't deal with a 30-second. Like I don't know, maybe that keeps getting compressed, but it makes sense to me why right now people in like advanced financial areas can't convey like super useful knowledge in 30 seconds.
What about us though? Like, how do we discuss anything?
I think we're like bridge boomers, you know? We're not really boomers, but we're like not we also
Millennials?
can't I mean we are millennials, but like the Zoomers can communicate so freaking succinctly. It's like bam, bam, bam. And like we like to talk about stuff and think, but a lot of them are just like, I have a limited amount of time. I got a million videos on my feed. Give me the meat and bones. Just give me the alpha, and then I want to scroll up and get on to my next thing. And I sort of get that.
That's the paradox, right?
No, it's actually brilliant.
That's the paradox.
I think we should transition our whole feed to just like ba 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 ba.
We should do both. We should just be like Alfalfa, just like
Like,
you know
here's
what it
our-
is.
Like,
Just
here's our Alfalfa.
yeah,
Here
and
it
then
is.
like the
Bing.
fucking pontification group. And but some people don't want to pontificate. Some people are like,
We've
what do I
actually
buy?
talked-
What do I
we've
buy?
actually
What do I buy?
talked
Cool,
about
cool, thanks.
I feel bad for those people.
We've actually talked about it. Like, how about we just like hit the Alfalfa round? Just like, here's what we think.
Yeah,
Bing.
like a quick fire round.
Okay, I actually think we should, maybe we could talk publicly about that. I think we should do Alfalfa round. Nobody comments, and then when it's
Oh, you want
done,
to
we
debate
go,
this publicly?
yes.
Let's go.
Yes. When it's over, then we go like, oh, okay, Eric said this thing, but it's already over. And then it's the next segment of the pod, and then we get to move on.
You really just got dick with your O face. Oh, you gave
Spilled
a
all over.
But
Steven's
I think it's a
orgasm
good model.
face.
I think you give everybody the rapid thing, boom, 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 and you're like, okay, everybody, earmuffs if you don't want to go deep right now. But now we're gonna like, now Steven's very upset at the face Eric made when he gave his thing.
But,
Oh my God.
I mean, the generation is doing both. Like it's diving into TikToks, which are like 20-second bits of information, but it's also
Yeah, they
diving
Yes,
furthermore
they
into
are.
podcasts.
Yes,
which is long
good
form.
point.
There's
Good
like
point.
Yes.
Barbell
Yeah,
approach.
they
to
are.
it.
Nobody was doing like Walter Cronkite wasn't doing 4-hour fucking podcasts. It
Nope.
was like one random guy who wrote a book.
Nope. Exactly.
Didn't happen.
Yeah,
It's a bifurcation.
The young people of this generation are absolutely doing both. They're interested in both, and for that reason, not to play this like overly, but like I think everything that I just heard, I'm really fascinated by this question. I feel like so much of it is correct and so much of it is incorrect, in the sense that I often worry that like the direction technology is evolving may not always be right. So one of the ways in which it's evolving is like people's attention spans are decreasing and things are getting more frenetic and crazy and just generally more alarming, and information is increasing and we're required to process more of it at once. It's so funny, we all were on our holiday breaks or whatever, and I was asking my dad, I was like, do you feel that information and the speed of just delivery is increasing over time, or is this just like some anecdotal thing that I'm experiencing in my generation where I just can't contain all of it? And he was like, no, it's like absolutely like increasing, and it's extremely overwhelming. And like I don't know how you guys even begin to contain all of it in your minds. It's just too much. And that's where I worry a little bit, where I think that TikTok culture itself is just a byproduct of like the need and desire to consume more information rapidly. It's just a little scary. It's like, it's concerning. It's like, what if it isn't just the best way to do the next best thing, but it's really just the next best solution because we have too much information? I mean,
But you're also
that clicks in for me. That makes sense. It's like there's too much. I need it now. I need it faster.
Yeah.
Give it to me better. Entertain me. Make a little sound. Make a little emoji. Make a little whatever to get it through my brain.
But you can't process it. You feel like you're behind the curve.
The human does.
Yeah. That's how I feel like when I go play Fortnite. Right? Like I grew up, played Halo, played all the shooters. I went and played Fortnite, and then a bunch of 5-year-olds clicked on my heads and like teabagged my corpse, and I felt like a loser. And I was just like, how do these 5-year-old kids process so much information so quickly? They whip out their little dolphin hammer and like break, and like I didn't even know what happened, and then boom, I'm dead. And that's how I felt. I was like, I like what you're doing, and I want to participate, and I cannot process the stimuli as fast as you can. And now my virtual corpse is dead, and you're dancing on me.
And I think it's easier for them because I think you made a point that there's more information to consume, but there's also less information you need to retain. Like we don't need to remember each
Very
other's
good
phone
point.
numbers. We don't
Very
need to
good
remember
point.
how to get from place to place, where things are,
But your
which
processor
restaurants are
speed,
good.
if I can
Yeah.
make a stupid analogy,
Yeah.
your processor speed needs to go up, but your
memory-
processor /
yeah.
memory needs to go up,
Yeah.
but your actual storage can go down.
Yeah. Easily.
and you can
I can just go to my Notion and pull it up,
Yeah,
or I can
it's
ask
in the
Google the same
cloud.
question
It's in the
30
cloud.
different times in
Yeah.
the same day.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's accessible at any time. Like it's there and it's available. But like your processor better get better at all times. And that is the race. It's a race of processor speed. I don't know what the right answer is, but I do worry. I do think actually like I would like to have a deeper discussion about this issue of the desire and necessity for long form content. Like I was maybe thinking it would be like half of this conversation, but I think it could easily be like a little popcorn thing we do for 7 minutes or
I think
maybe
it would be
even
a good
30
combo.
minutes. I do want
Long
your guys'
form,
is like
hyper long form,
yeah,
hyper short form.
I want your guys' take on it because like I worry a little bit about this one. So yeah.
It's okay. Save it.
All right, I got it. I can contain.
Do a little tantric intellectualism. Just
Just breathe through it.
yeah, keep it inside of you.
You mean tantric masturbation?
Okay.
There's
I
no
was trying to be a little
climax
more
in that.
subtle
Do you know
it,
about
but-
that? I can.
Yeah, of course I know about that, Armand. Thank
Oh
you.
wow, he's a
course.
pro of.
God,
Yeah. You just,
Anyway.
you just stay right there.
you're gonna be fun after 2 weeks of the detox.
You just don't have that moment.
You're gonna be like Randy Marsh in that South Park episode. He's like, who's the ghost? It's ectoplasm everywhere.
Spooky ghost.
I don't understand the question, and I
Refuse to answer.
I refuse to respond to it.
Anyway,
see you
I think-
later.
I think it's a good place to wrap up. That was a fun
That was fun.
discussion. I enjoyed
That was
that a lot.
fun. That was-
Actually.
that was-
and
that was very
I
good.
am really looking forward to the next one. So.
Yeah. Everyone's drunk. Goodbye.
Goodbye.